Hi, my name is Katherine Chornowski. I'm a Baruch student and a journalism major.
Hi, I'm Marwa Muwaki. I'm also a Baruch College student and also a journalism major.
Marwa, that's a really interesting name. Where are you from?
I'm actually Algerian. I was born here, but my parents immigrated here around 20 years ago.
My parents also immigrated here about 20 years ago from Poland.
Oh, so is that how you actually pronounce your name?
Well, in Polish, my name would be Katarzyna Hojnowski, but for the sake of simplicity, I go by Katherine.
Yeah, my name's actually pronounced Marwa Muwaki, but I also just go by Marwa Muwaki. There's actually a lot of immigrants in the United States.
Yeah, you're right. According to the Pew Research Center, there was a record number of 43.7 million immigrants living in the U.S. in 2016. That means they made up approximately 14% of the nation's population.
There's always been like a lot of racism and discrimination around that, but especially now with the president that'll literally like chant things at us.
We're going to build the wall. We have no choice. We have no choice.
I think New York is different fundamentally just because there's such a diversity here and there's so many different people from different cultures that people are by nature more accepting because they're more exposed to it. But in a way, like, I'm sure you've also felt this before, we still face the same discrimination.
Actually, my friend Cynthia Centauri, whose parents immigrated from Indonesia, talked about how seeing these attacks on other people, like her parents are kind of okay with it, but at the same time, like it affects her more than it affects her parents.
We don't see ourselves as immigrants, even though we're like born of immigrants. So we like fight back. I don't think it's fair because I'm not an immigrant.
Yeah.
I think it's like, you know what I mean, and I see that attack. Yes, I see the attack on people like my parents that are immigrants, but they'll just take those bullets like it's nothing. Like they'll just be like, this is the price I have to pay to be here.
I also feel like part of the reason that we react to these types of situations differently than our parents do is because we weren't raised in the same environment.
The huge difference between having immigrant parents and having like parents that grew up here is that you and your parents literally grew up in two different worlds.
Oh yeah.
Like it's two completely drastically different worlds, and I feel like kids always look to be like understood, and that's where like the teenage angst comes from. It's like, oh, nobody understands me. But when you grow up with immigrant parents, your parents literally don't understand you.
And while it isn't always easy just because of that cultural barrier, there's also a lot of funny stories that come out of it. I spoke to my friend Agata. Her mom also immigrated from Poland before she was born, as well as her aunt and her grandma. So her whole family kind of came over here. And she told me a really funny story about what happened when her aunt got her first job.
My aunt first moved to the States. She works at a barbershop where they primarily speak Spanish. So she didn't speak a lick of English and obviously no Spanish. And they were telling her first day, la casa, like go home for lunch. And like if you say casa to a Polish person, it means kind of like, oh, like money, like stand next to the cash register. So she's standing next to the cash register, and they're like, la casa. She's like, I know, like la casa. And they're like pushing her out the door. She's like, what the heck is going on?
Not only were there misunderstandings like between the family, there were also misunderstanding between Agata and her friends even when she would speak to her family. She's told me stories, and this has actually happened to me personally as well, where she would be talking to her mom on the phone and she would be like, mam być tutaj, which in Polish means I'm supposed to be somewhere, wherever. And her friends would be like, did you really just call your mom a bitch? And she'd be like, no, what are you talking about? I'm just telling her where I have to be.
Yeah, growing up with immigrant parents, there's definitely super funny stories that happen just because of the clash of the different worlds. But it also gives you a whole other perspective on the world, and I think that's also super cool.
Yeah, I spoke to my friend Agata, and she definitely thinks that there are a lot of advantages to having parents that weren't born in the U.S.
Well, it definitely gave me character. It makes you aware from a very young age that this is not the only place in the world. Then plus just like feeling kind of unique in a certain sense. Like, yeah, I celebrate holidays a little bit differently. Like everybody else also celebrates holidays a little bit differently. It makes you, like, people ask you, oh, like, how do you, what's Vigilia? What the heck is that? Or, why do you carry a basket on Easter to church? It doesn't make any sense to me. And it prompts you to ask those questions back to people. So I think there's that. But also, being bilingual is definitely, like, as far as, like, being a young person in the working force is definitely an advantage to speak another language.
Yeah, growing up with immigrant parents is definitely super interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, it's definitely a learning experience, both on our parts as the kids and on our parents' parts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad at the end of the day that that I do have that different experience than a lot of people. I mean, in New York, a lot of people relate to that, so that I didn't feel alone in that aspect since I did grow up in New York.
I agree. There's definitely a big benefit that comes from having such a versatile community of people being from so many different places. And even though we are from different cultures, I feel like just that immigrant experience really unifies us all. We would like to thank our friends for sharing their stories with us, CNN for providing audio sound bites, and freemusicarchive.org for providing music for this podcast. Thank you for listening.